walking you through this. So the first slide, and it's something actually we would like you to do, is in order to make this engaging and interesting for you, we have set up a demonstration site, the Join in Demo demonstration site, and what this enables you to do is to participate on our message board, to submit any questions you have during this webinar, and we will be having a Q&A session at the end of the session, and we will be posing a couple of polls during the session as well, so some interesting questions that we have for you, and would be fantastic to understand your feedback and to hear your feedback. So I will leave that on the screen for now. As I say, it's www.joinindemo.com/IML. This can be accessed through any browser, either on your smartphone or indeed on your laptop as well. So you can obviously do that by opening another browser window. Upon logging into joinindemo.com/IML, you will be asked to enter your name. You can obviously just enter your first name, and then you will log in. No password is required here. Upon logging in, you will notice that it appears straight into the live discussion board, enabling you to participate and enter your questions. And as and when we introduce the polling aspect, the polling question will overlay the message board without you having to do anything, and of course you can then participate in the poll, and we will then show the responses of that poll. So hopefully everybody has had the time to do that, and upon the next couple of slides the link will remain at the bottom of the screen for you to do so. So introductions then. Myself, Pete Fowler, and my colleague Liz Connors are on the webinar, and we'll be conducting the webinar. Just to give you an idea as to who we are and the region in which we work in, it is very much the west coast of the US, of North America, and I am the general manager of the West Coast, looking after this territory, and Liz, my colleague, is the director of business development for the West Coast, predominantly working with our clients and customers on that West Coast. We are two of a large team within the US that consists of around 35 individuals working across the United States, and of course the US is a part of the global company as well, IML, in which we operate in 12 countries and consist of 200 employees. As you can see, that link remains at the bottom for you to log into our site. So hopefully everybody has logged into the site, and what I will now do is pose a polling question to you all, and hopefully obviously we will get some interesting responses. So on that demo site now, you should be seeing the question, and I will now open the poll. So the question was, what was the most common technology that your clients were asking for in 2013? Proprietary, which is of course audience response systems that contained a system that is brought into, and that's obviously something IML provide. Event apps, of course, ever more popular. iPad systems, so the hiring of iPad systems, or the ability to view presentations on iPads, or maybe something else, something other. And of course, if there is something other, please feel free to post that response on our message board. So I can see that votes have come in, which is fantastic. And as I close that vote and now display the result, everybody will be seeing that result on screen. And very interestingly, mobile event apps are probably leading that there with iPads as well. So interestingly, iPads are something that is being required by our customers and clients. And then, of course, proprietary ARS still remains relatively strong as well. So thank you very much for the response, and hopefully you get a feel there for how that interactivity and engaging solution works, of course, on the mobile device, and how we can receive those instant results. So just to give you a brief context to IML, who we are and where we operate, as I suggested, we are one of 200 employees across the world, and we have a vast amount of experience, 23 years of experience within the business, providing interactive solutions to meetings and events. I have worked with IML for 8.5 years, and in those 8.5 years it's astonishing in which the rate of technology and the speed at which technology has sort of improved and moved on. And IML, of course, we move on with that technology trying to be obviously the cutting edge of technology for our customers and clients. We're very proud to say that we run over 2,500 events a year globally across the world, and those events range from your typical sales meetings, pharmaceutical meetings, through to annual meetings, annual shareholder meetings, and we are incredibly proud to say that we are the industry leader for that, in order to priding ourselves on capturing 100% of the votes and accuracy of data, which is of course incredibly important in any meeting, but most importantly in annual shareholder meetings. We also provide fundraising events. We very much across the world are very large in providing that silent auction, pledging events, and also now obviously moving more and more into the mobile event space, and that will be explained a little further. So that is our full range of technologies. So we are providing, as I say, mobile technologies, mobile event apps, and the ability to be interactive on your own device. The iPad solution, as I say, that provides PowerPoint presentations, that self-contained network approach, and obviously polling as well, as ever. The IML connector, introducing you to that, that is our advanced audience response proprietary device that enables you not only to obviously participate in voting, to track your responses, etc. You can message the presenter through moderated tablets, etc. But I think the unique selling point of this device, and that is ever more popular with our clients, is the ability to speak through the device, utilize it as a microphone. That is, it will be explained in a couple of our case studies, but the way in which that works, it is that the Q&A is conducted in very much the same way as always, but what the user can then do is press that microphone button and then speak into the device. So it is a controlled system that enables that user to then speak, which comes through the PA system. So as I say, very, very popular to our customers. So just before, obviously, we could come onto the case study, some incredibly exciting news for us as a company, and also for Quick Mobile as well, and the industry, most importantly. We announced this recently, and there was a very large PR push for this, and you may well have seen this on LinkedIn, etc. But what this is that we have formed a strategic partnership with Quick Mobile. So Quick Mobile, just to give you a little background to that organization, they are a very strong organization in the mobile app event world, providing mobile event apps to very large shows, exhibitor shows, and I'm sure you've probably seen them at the likes of IMEX and EIBTM, etc. We have formed this partnership to be the interactive engine behind Quick Mobile's application. And I move on to a quote from the CEO of Quick Mobile, Patrick Payne. And I think there are some highlighted words there that really emphasize the strength of this partnership. And it was very much a decision that we have two products here from two different organizations. They're incredibly powerful. And why do we want to reinvent the wheel? Why would IML try and create a mobile event app when there is something in existence of Quick Mobile's nature? And likewise, they have obviously seen our platform in the interactive mobile event space, and seeing that we are, as Patrick says, light years ahead of competitors. So what we are doing is bringing these two organizations together, bringing the two respective research and development sides of the organization together to now provide a fantastic solution for our customers that, of course, I hope that you'll reap the benefit of. By bringing those two research and development teams together, we now feel that we are at the very peak of the cutting edge of technology, so there are going to be some exciting developments in the future. So what does it mean for IML as a business? It means that we provide you customers now an application called Join an Event. Fantastic application. As you can see, there's a little preview on that mobile device. An event app that not only is a content dissemination tool providing lovely features like creating your own schedule, accessing social media, messaging peers and attendees and networking within the event, creating your own notes, viewing presentations and sending those to yourself, and viewing interactive venue maps, etc. What we now can provide is that interactive, engaging side of that mobile application that I think that is missing from quite a number of these event apps. That is that real-time voting, real-time messaging that is now provided through that. just a few examples there as well. It's nice to have a context as to IML, who we work for, and as you can see, there are a number of international clients there on that list. So coming to the case studies then, some exciting case studies that we have to present to you today that I hope you will find innovative and interesting to you, and maybe can be applied to some of your meetings going forward. So I start with an actual UK example. A UK example that I once was part of the UK team within IML, which was a year ago now. But in my time in the UK, I had a client, a UK financial institution client, that came to me with a solution, a little bit of a problem. So they found a fantastic venue in London. It was a brand new venue that was the top of a building, beautiful views over London. And the issue that they had is that they had 200 delegates. They had one room, and they required that room to be broken into 3 in order to create breakout rooms. Now, this was obviously a big issue. The space was not there. They didn't want to lose the venue because of its beauty, but wanted to somehow introduce technology to combat this problem and to achieve the ability to have 3 breakout rooms within one. So obviously an incredibly tricky scenario, but what that presented to us and to IML was a challenge that could be serviced by the IML connector. So the IML connector, as I suggested earlier and mentioned earlier, one feature of that device is the ability to utilize it as a microphone. An extra feature of that is the fact that you can place a headset into the device, quite commonly used as a simultaneous interpretation tool in enabling the delegates to select their desired language. But in this instance, we created the ability to then split the room into 3. So that one room became 3. We essentially paper divided the 3 room, that one main room, to make it into 3. And each of those delegates that obviously were assigned to the portion of the room were then able to tune in via their device to the presenter. So a very strange, eerie feeling was created in the room, because obviously complete silence was generated by these delegates placing headsets on their head and selecting their appropriate speaker. I think a feeling that was mirrored from the presenters, who found this a little bit of a strange context and a strange environment to present. But what they did give us was the feedback that it was incredibly engaging, that the people were completely focused on exactly what they were saying. So come the end of the session, all the presenters had to do, of course, was move positions on their stage. The delegates remained seated. They remained attentive and engaged in the presentation. And through the device, we, of course, tackled the problem. But, of course, as well, we saved the financial institution an incredible amount of money to change venues, and we provided exactly what they required. So hopefully you find that quite an interesting example, something very different, but now you're aware. So at this stage, I'm going to hand the reins over to my colleague Liz Connors, who will be taking you through some more examples.
Hi everybody, welcome. I did just want to remind everyone, feel free to post any comments or questions on the joinindemo.com. And I'm going to jump into this case study for 6 Degrees Medical Consulting. They had a very unique thing that they wanted to do when they came to IML. And essentially they sought to use IML for their premier pharmaceutical client holding a medical sales training meeting. Now, this was 3,000 attendees, and the event, kind of similar to the last event, but much larger, of course, had a space issue. So with those 3,000 people, they actually were functioning across 3 different hotels in Las Vegas. So their main goals for the event were to ensure that the training sessions and the results were fast, reliable, and secure. So remember, this is medical sales training. It's very important that the attendees leave with a mastery of the topic. The client wanted to measure the attendee learning to make sure that this was effective. They wanted to, again, run seamlessly with the over 3,000 attendees and function, again, across 3 hotels in the Vegas area. So what IML did is, again, we used the same IML connector with the QWERTY keyboard. the built-in microphone, the messaging and polling capabilities. And we actually prepared a couple of Train the Trader meetings, are always held for 6 Degrees Medical. And so we actually did 2 months prior, we did a Train the Trainer meeting. And this was 50 high-level executives who would later become facilitators for the next meeting. And essentially what they did is they used this very same feature function, the IML connector, and they actually had a working meeting where they texted in, questions they thought they should ask the attendees at the meeting, took votes to narrow down those polling questions, and really identified what it was they were trying to accomplish at their sessions 2 months later at the meeting. And then there was a second Train the Trainer as well, and this was for the 450 participants that would also go on to be facilitators. And during this meeting, they further, again, refined those questions, and so we got from multiple perspectives agreement on what type of questions should be run at the meetings, and really what type of engagement, was the event as a whole trying to produce. In the meantime, of course, IML was testing the 3 hotels, and with them, of course, spread over 1.5 miles. And as you can all imagine, there's a very dense urban Wi-Fi environment in Las Vegas. So what IML did was we connected the 3 hotels with internet run through a VPN connection to ensure everything was secure. Now this meeting was very large, but just to kind of put it all out there, it was essentially 78 breakout rooms throughout these 3 hotels. So essentially there were about 40 people in each of these 78 breakout rooms that were pre-assigned. And then there was a central control room that all of our technology linked back into, and that was where they actually broadcast the content to each of these 78 breakout rooms, where a facilitator and a moderator aided in its delivery. Attendees there viewed the content on screen and participated, of course, by answering polling questions, using the messaging functions to send their feedback and questions through their devices. And then, of course, the results from all 3 hotels combined were able to display instantly on screen in each room. The pre-test and post-test and PIN numbers were used actually to track the individual responses back to the individuals. And this allowed us actually to provide a high scorers board, to offer prizes, and really to measure the collective learning, of course, was what it's about. Now, I was at one of these meetings, I would say maybe 4 years ago, and every time we put up a scoreboard, I've never heard so many adults get so excited at a conference. You could literally hear the hooting and hollering out from the hallway. So never underestimate how competitive your sales team is. So essentially, what the client got out of it was that the 2 preparatory meetings allowed for maximum insight to be gained from the medical sales training meeting, as well as the questions that were run and the engagement that was captured at the physical meeting was exactly what they were looking for, and the type of content that they, as a result, polled was going to be very, very valuable. For example, because the PIN numbers tied the individuals to their responses, managers could follow up with specific sales reps if necessary after the meeting. They could also compare, if reps from the East Coast versus reps from the West Coast, and really know internally where they may need to do more training. And then, of course, again, the client was really able to assess the total, the total meeting success by looking at their reports post-event. So moving along to this next example, we're going to actually run a polling question now. Keep you guys on your toes. Pete, do you want to jump in with the polling question?
Yes, absolutely. So hopefully everybody will be seeing a poll on their device now that I've just posed to everybody. And it's just a question about really where your events were predominantly executed in the year of 2013. And there are options of the East Coast, West Coast, the Central region, or maybe international. So hopefully, obviously, as everybody goes back to their device. And Bill, I see that you've posted a comment on the message board. My apologies regarding your participation on your latest Windows phone. That is not something that is currently available on the latest Windows phone. But as I say, we are working incredibly hard to be obviously be able to provide that kind of service to those devices. So that will be something in the future. But this predominantly, as probably hopefully some people are experiencing, the iOS devices, the Android devices, and of course the web browser that most people probably are participating on this side is most certainly available to our customers. So as I close the poll and we display the results, so very interesting. So nobody, 0% on the East Coast. Maybe that's due to the participation of the individuals, obviously. But we have 40% on the West Coast, 20% in Central, and 40% internationally as well. So very interesting numbers there. And thank you very much for your participation. And I hand back to Liz.
Yes, good to know that some of you working international. This next slide, Pete, if you would advance for me, is actually an example from South Africa. So Santam, the leading short-term insurance company in South Africa, had another very unique challenge. They wanted to do their annual conference, and typically it had been a large expense for the company to bring their very large group of 1,600 attendees all into one place at the company's expense. So when they came to us, they were really looking for a way to engage every single person of those 1,600 attendees without hosting the conference in just one location. So they actually had 13 separate venues across the country. And then, of course, the second goal was to use a leading edge in technology, secure, reliable, of course, were all things they were looking for. And the goal was to engage their consultants at a strategic level, centering around Santam's new digital technology, IT systems, and mobile apps. So, you know, the whole point of the meeting, of course, was to focus on technology. So they did want to go ahead and practice what they preach and bring technology in. So what they ended up using is Join On Live, which is actually one of the products that we're using today for the discussion board and the polling. And this is essentially a bring your own device platform. Sorry to say, Bill, with the exception that we still don't have a platform for Windows phones, and we are working on that. So essentially, we created a platform, and this was an online dashboard that would allow folks on the back end to control the meeting in one place. And then we created questions, quick polls, and announcements that could all be preloaded into that dashboard and could be pushed instantly or close to instantly to the audience. We also created a live message board similar to what we're using today, where the attendees could put their feedback and, of course, could post questions and provide, you know, candid data. In this case, the attendees could either create a custom profile or they could remain anonymous. So essentially, again, you know, their main goals were just to connect across a country, and this sounds relatively simple, but when you're talking about, you know, 1,600 people in 13 separate locations, it's actually pretty innovative to allow them to be able to all connect in real time. So essentially, you know, in the end, we were able to save the client money on travel and had feedback and reports chocked full of great event data for the client on the back end. And essentially, the attendees all felt more comfortable using the mobile technology, and it was a really great way to release their applications. So moving along, Pete, to the next example, I actually really like, as a very social person myself, I really liked what we did with HPN Global. So their annual conference had typically been kind of a split. So while they had a lot of various people there representing the HPN representatives, they also had this whole supplier group. And these folks may work together on a very regular basis, but actually, seeing someone face to face, of course, is very valuable. And so HPN really wanted to make sure that, after spending all the time and energy to get these people in the same place at the same time, that some meaningful interactions were actually happening. So they enlisted the help of IML, and we actually used a mobile product called Join In Site. And folks could actually download this app before the event. And in this case, they actually did download the app pre-event, a couple weeks before the event. And they were able to submit a pre-event survey about the goals for the conference, their expectations for the meeting, what they looked forward to. And it really gave the company some further ideas for, how to run the meeting and what their attendees were most looking forward to. So back to the meaningful interaction. So essentially how this went down was, again, folks were encouraged to download the application and use it during the product fairs so they could, walk up to a table and scan the barcode at that table for more information. But they were also encouraged to rack up meaningful interactions. And this could be any place, any time during the conference. And essentially it would be up to the partners to decide what constitutes a meaningful interaction. So we did filter the data to prevent duplicate scans, and at the end of the event, just to make it even more compelling, points were assigned for each meaningful interaction, and a top 10 leaderboard was presented on Thursday morning. Now, when people scanned their meaningful interactions, they could also put in a note about what they discussed, and so again, it also was able to be a very valid way for people to do some good networking. Prizes were awarded to the people with the most mutual, meaningful interactions. And again, mutual is kind of the key word there. So it really kept it grounded and a good, meaningful experience. And now a post-event survey was also done. We like to see our clients kind of extend the life cycle of the event. And so pre-surveys and post-event surveys can be really valuable, of course, for doing that. And they did do a post-event survey, which they had available for a week after this particular event. And they could actually even prompt the events or the attendees if they had not gone in and filled out that survey yet. So that is just a good networking example, which I actually get asked for all the time from my clients. So this next example is quite full, actually. They used a lot of different things to make their event special. And the initial portion of the conference starts with a board meeting the day before the actual conference starts. And so Elite Meetings Alliance is polling all of their board members from all over the country together to kind of do a review of how Elite's doing, what should be the future initiatives for Elite, and really allow for some candid feedback from their board members. So what we did was we actually provided the IML tablet solution. So each attendee was given a tablet in which our application was pre-installed and really locked down. Because at board meetings, AGM meetings, those sorts of things, a lot of the topics are quite sensitive. It was important to them that they had a solution that was a contained network, so really can be kept within the meeting room. So people couldn't, it also keeps people focused because they can't go out and surf the web. The presentations can be pushed in real time, so really keeping the attendees on focus. We also provided a moderator tablet, so the moderator up front could actually carry this tablet around or have it on the podium and see the real-time message board, so see the messages coming in real time and decide whether to address them, again, in real time or to address them during the Q&A. But this is just a really, essentially the texting in general or the messaging is a really effective way to save time and to be sure that your Q&A component is going to be very efficient and your attendees actually can have less anxiety about remembering their questions. So I do really like that. The polls conducted were both general polls, but also kind of multi-level strategic polls. So essentially, the board members were asked to text in initiatives that they thought elite meetings should really address moving forward. And then we were able to kind of pull those main initiatives out and then push them to a vote. So the attendees could actually, within a couple minutes, narrow those initiatives down to maybe the top 3 goals or main initiatives for elite meetings moving forward, which is that's a strategy that is usually enlisted the help of a consultant for. And it's essentially your board members are kind of your key target audience and they're representatives of what your brand should be doing and working on. So we thought that was a really effective use of this tool. And we've done that for actually several major clients across the U.S. Note-taking on the tablets also is an effective and turnkey solution for the attendees. So they're able to take notes during the meeting and then actually turn around and email those notes to themselves. A lot of these board members are, leaving the meeting to go straight onto an airplane, and it's great that they don't have to carry 10 pages of notes around that are not yet typed up. So another thing that we did for elite meetings in the main conference component, of course, we allowed them to continue texting throughout the event using the microphones. So they very much use the microphones for the Q&A components and all the breakout sessions and general sessions. And then they can also do instant surveys at the end of each session. But we also partnered with Quick Mobile, and we provided a gaming component that went throughout the event. And this is something, of course, that is a trend universally right now, is, why does business have to be cut and dry? There can always be incentive. There can always be extra ways to make it fun. So what they did in this case is, you can see, I know that these examples are very small, but these are just some little screenshots of what was on the attendee devices. And so there was gaming, and points and pin numbers were associated, so we could keep track and do scoreboards. And this made the networking, again, very easy. People were kind of running around trying to network with other folks, and it's very similar to the meaningful interactions concept. You can see there's a little scoreboard on the right over here that would actually get pushed out to the devices and could be made available on there. And that can be pushed in real time, or it can be pushed at certain during the day. The ability for additional initiatives to scan a barcode on the entry sign, or maybe they're supposed to go to a desk to pick up their event gift, and they scan their barcode there for tracking. And you can, again, make this harder or easier just depending on the goals for your event. So this can be used for learning initiatives where people may be going around and doing a learning scavenger hunt, and there might be barcodes throughout the event where they might need to take a picture. And some of you have probably seen this type of concept at WEC last year. I know they used a similar tool, but with that tool it was a little limited. They could only do pictures. But this concept does allow for scanning of barcodes, texting and responses, and is very kind of extensive. So moving along, now we wanted to kind of move away from working style meetings and just talk about some ways, just some really fun uses of technology. This was one example that I don't know why, but this just hits me in the special innovation place. I just think this is so cool. And I read about this actually in the most recent Biz Bash magazine, and some of you may have seen this as well. But it is basically you tweet for treats. So we're all essentially giving out freebies at our conferences, and this is a way to get something in return. So basically have the guest advertise you or follow you on Twitter in exchange for that free product. This has been used by companies like Bare Minerals, Polaroid. Twitter itself, of course, has used it, and I think it's interesting that Google actually has one of these machines that's custom made to look like an Android phone, and they actually use that in their trade show booth. So in this example, it's actually bathing suits, because this was a Fashion Week Swim in Miami event. But they've done sunglasses at Lollapalooza as an example. And essentially how it works is this is a company called Innovative Vending Solutions from Ohio. They founded in 2008, but of course have recently become very popular. And the attendees essentially walk up to the machine, and there is a touch screen, as you can see in the picture here, and they can even choose sizing and that sort of thing, and it renews every time, of course, it's used. So the next example is actually an example that IML got to be a part of, and we partnered with Song Division, and I'm not sure if any of you have heard of Song Division, but they're a company that really works with conferences to allow their attendees to write an original song. So at MEA 2012 conference, IML got to work with Song Division, and we used those IML connector devices that you've seen with the QWERTY keyboard and put those in all of the attendees' hands at the general sessions. People could text in lyrics, and those would actually go backstage to a band. And there were thousands of responses from these 600 people in the audience. And an hour later, essentially, the band put together the song and performed it. By the way, I also think this is fabulously cool. The audience did also get to vote on what style they wanted the song to be. So did they want it to be country? Did they want it to be rock and roll? Did they want it to be a pop song? And it was a truly inspiring and memorable entertainment component for not only, you know, the conference holders who could use this song for further videos and, you know, further encouragement for the company and employees, but then for the attendees, they're still talking about it, and the song, of course, lives on. So I think we're going to, one more example, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. So of course, I'm sure you guys have done some trivia and had requests for trivia. I would say on the corporate side of our business, I get requests for trivia weekly. And one thing that clients are always coming to IML for is how can you make the trivia even more interactive, even more compelling. One thing we do quite often is customized scoreboards, and I think there's a client on the phone today that actually has used us for a customized scoreboard. And so we've done, you know, rock climbers or race cars, or, you know, kind of like they do at the baseball stadiums, where you can have these dynamic graphics to show your results throughout the event. But we've also done custom game shows, so we can do these through our Join In Site offering, through our IML connector. And we've done Family Feud, and Family Feud is a great one because, as they do, where they go out and poll pedestrians with Family Feud to get the most common answers, you can do this with your audience. So the audience is engaged. You might also have your CEO or your, you know, admin team on the stage to be actually the competing team, or maybe it's selected at random. And you can, of course, do the real-time displays. Dancing with the Stars. We've recently had the opportunity to do a Dancing with the Stars event. It was for a charity organization. They had several teams, and just like the show, the audience was able to actually vote a team out each round right from their mobile devices. And then Jeopardy, one of the longest running game shows on TV, is also one of our most common requests. There's just something about it, and the real brainiacs love it. So that's kind of one of our main game shows that we do there. So I think, you know, now just knowing that we only had an hour, we wanted to respect your time. And we're going to go ahead and move over to some Q&A.
That's great. Thanks, Liz. And thank you, yeah, once again, as Liz reiterated, thank you for your time. I guess that not a great deal of questions have come through. This remains open. So please feel free to post some questions. But I think a good question that was posed earlier, and it was a discussion that we're having quite frequently at the moment as an organization, is the best way to implement an event app and to ensure attendee adoption. I think the latter part of that question is the most pertinent at the moment. And I think if I answer that now, I think my thoughts are, of course, I think communication is obviously key prior to the event and pre-event. Engaging with the delegates pre-event is key there. So of course, through the means of email communication, through the means of posting on message boards, social media, of course, to ensure the adoption and installation of potentially the event app onto one's device is something that, of course, we recommend. I think My opinion on it is very much the strength of IML, as we said, is providing interactive solutions at meetings and events. So I think by providing an interactive event app, either through obviously posing questions during the introduction phase of the meeting, enabling people to participate in voting. Something we're currently doing at an event in Las Vegas at the moment, a very large event of 3,000 people. So user adoption to an event app was key there, and that was something that, as I say, was explained to the delegates prior to the event. Introduction to the application was key, and that's when they went on to then run a couple of test votes. And just through the interaction appeal, that was really taken up and something that was quite interesting. I think other means of obviously improving that interaction piece, and it was something that Liz touched on around the elite meetings example, was the gamifying of an event. Making it fun, making it interactive will obviously increase participation. And I think those are the means that absolutely will increase that. It's something that is pertinent, as I say. It's something that organizations such as IML and Quick Mobile are really looking into and offering assistance, and I think we will be releasing a few sort of newsletters and white papers based on this, so really just truly look out for that.
Yeah, and I'll just add to Pete's response a little bit. One way that we're recommending to a lot of our clients to enhance adoption of apps and also to allow the companies to grab some information about attendees and about attendees' expectations before the event is actually to allow availability to the application, you know, maybe a week, 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks before the event, and through to maybe a week after the event, where attendees can kind of, you know, download it at their own time. And of course, going that next step and allowing participation points for that is going to entice even more people to get involved early on and start providing analytics, of course, for our clients. So what I've done, Pete, just so you know, and I took some questions from our previous webinar that I thought were good and seemed to be of interest to all the attendees, and just kind of started plugging them in to the join-in demo here. So Pete, I'll pose this one to you. What may be the deciding factor for when to use one solution over another?
Yeah, it's a great question, of course, especially at the moment with all of these applications that are available. I think obviously there are a number of factors, and we really, I think when I speak to my clients, I like to ask the question, what do you want to achieve? What's important to your meeting? Is the capturing of data vitally important? Is the capturing of every single person's opinion important? I think when the answer comes back as yes in those questions that I pose, to me it leans towards a more proprietary device, where we have complete control over the network. We do not depend upon Wi-Fi networks within a venue that can be costly, of course. And we have, as I say, complete control, enabling every user and to hear every voice and every opinion from every user. That, I think, is an answer when the response is something that they want to achieve, of course. Now, technology, Wi-Fi networks, especially in the United States, are becoming even better. And that's why we formed the strategic partnership with Quick Mobile to provide that interactive engine behind an event app, because that is truly the future. We believe that is where a lot of our clients are demanding that bring your own device concept, where you can participate and you can be assured that you will receive every response for those people that are participating. So I think there are a number of questions, of course, that go through people's minds when asking around solutions. But those are just a couple of examples that I think I obviously wanted to pose to you. So I think I'm very aware that we've come to the end of our allotted time. Once again, we thank you for your participation. What we're going to do is extend the life cycle of this webinar. This discussion board remains open, so please feel free to pose any more questions, and we will certainly come back to you. But both Liz and I, we look forward to potentially connecting with you in the near future, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you very much.
And wishing you all lovely upcoming holidays.
Absolutely. Thank you.